What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Cinema Wave podcast here at the Culture Wave Media Network. We are back to discuss episode 3 of HBO's The Night of the Seven Kingdoms, the series set within the Game of Thrones universe. I'm going to be one of your hosts. My name is Darian Scalamoni. I am joined this time by Sean Villa.
Hello.
And Vinny Albano.
Hello, hello.
So it's been a couple weeks since we covered this because of the snowstorm that we had here in New Jersey.
Winter came.
The winter did come, literally. And so episode 2, I really enjoyed. Like, I remember coming on the first pod, and I think we were all like, that was kind of fun, but I don't know how this is going to kind of translate. Episode 2 really worked for me. I really, really enjoyed episode 2. And then this one kind of does the same thing, but then we get this big reveal that kind of happens at the end of the episode, which we'll get into. But sort of just, I guess, again, asking both of you guys, I'll go opposite than I usually do. We'll start off with Vinny this time. Vinny, what did you think, broad thoughts kind of on where we're now halfway through this season? What did you think of the third episode of The Night of the Seven Kingdoms?
Yeah, I'm loving it. I said this since the first episode. I know I was a lot more positive than you guys, but I'm really, really loving this show. There's something about it that I love, the blend of comedy and drama within the very dark fantasy world of Game of Thrones. I am loving the relationship and the chemistry between Peter Claffey and Dexter and
Soul Ansell.
Soul Ansell. I was looking for that middle one. I love them as Dunk and Egg. The chemistry is great. I love how they're just genuine underdogs that you can root for. There's no real, like, I love stories when we have morally gray and all that, but this is just, it's refreshing. I love a lot of the sequences with Egg in episode 3. The opening with the horse, very charming, very cute stuff, and that's really it for me, honestly.
Sean, what about you?
Yeah, I think we didn't get to cover 2 together, but I think the trajectory of this show for me has just sort of just gone up. It's just gone in a like straight line up. I think the first episode, I was the same way as you, was kind of like, yeah, okay, like it's enjoyable, but like I don't really know like what this show is yet. And then I thought episode 2 was way funnier than episode 1 for me, and it felt a lot cozier. I think this is a cozy show, which is so surprising for Game of Thrones, but it's like very warm and comfortable and cute in a lot of ways. And I think episode 3 is the funniest one so far. I like actually had some good laughs in this episode, and it's also ramping up the character work and the drama. We're getting some good drama. We have like actual like Game of Thrones politics now coming into the fold, which is exciting for me. Yeah, I really liked it. I thought it was a very strong episode.
Yeah, I think the word I would use to describe the show, which again, a bit surprising for Game of Thrones, is whimsical.
Yeah.
I think this show has a lot of whimsy to it. And I think that we get the most with Egg, I think, in this episode than we've had across the 3 episodes so far, where he's kind of establishing himself and what he's looking for and what he's hoping to kind of achieve alongside Dunk. And then we get the flip at the end of the episode, which is the exact kind of opposite of what we see at the beginning of the episode, where he's kind of just trying to forge this own relationship with the horse and trying to do what he thinks is going to be right for Dunk. And then he kind of comes to the aid of Dunk at the end of the episode in a very dramatic way. And we start to see everything kind of shift and flip on its head, like you said, Sean, with the politics. Because we get the most with it's Aerion Targaryen, correct?
Yeah.
Yes, Aerion Targaryen, played by Finn Bennett, who we gotta get the most of the menacing kind of stuff with him that we've seen thus far in this episode. So for you, Sean, you brought it up in the first episode that we covered here, in the first episode of the series, where you said you hadn't read the books, but you were pretty sure that you find out that Egg is a Targaryen.
Yeah.
And we get that reveal at the end of this episode. So when that happened, did it kind of turn out the way you had thought it was, or did you know anything going into it? And what were your thoughts kind of when we wrap up the episode?
Yeah, I mean, I think that had I not known, I would have caught on a little bit before the reveal, just because of some like the little hints that they're throwing throughout this episode, where it's like, oh yeah, his infant son, or like his young son is missing, like the king's son is missing, and these 2 Targaryen boys went off to a brothel, and then one of them disappeared. And it's just like, oh yeah, that's like where he met Egg. Like, I think there was good lead up and seeds planted prior. But I think the way the reveal is done is really cool. I was kind of expecting him to just have to like admit to Dunk at some point that like, I'm actually not who I say I am. And I thought it was going to be kind of like cheesy. I think him like having to take authority is a good way to do it. And it makes for a very dramatic reveal. They almost do like a Kill Bill thing where it like zooms in on everybody. It's like, and it's like kind of
Hmm.
sillily edited. But I liked it. I think it's a really good scene. The score in that scene is great. Yeah, I don't know. It's a cool reveal. I like the dynamic that it's going to shift going forward. I'm interested to see how that goes because Dunk is very like, he's not aggressive with Egg, but he's sort of like, all right, you little like wisecracking bastard, like, listen up. And now I feel like, oh, it's a prince. So is he going to kind of like edge off or ease off of him? And,
Yeah. Well, he pushes him around a lot, but we also see kind of that side of Dunk that makes the character so lovable, where he kind of has a little bit of that with Egg after he finds out that he took the horse, and he tells him to kind of do these little chores for him essentially, and then he decides to make it a teachable moment, and he wants to teach him how to do patchwork, which I think is again so great. And it's in the I don't know if I talked about this on the first episode we recorded, but I read the profile that Hollywood Reporter did on George R.R. Martin in the lead up to this show, and he said that he felt that the casting of Dunk and Egg were the best castings in all of Game of Thrones thus far.
They're really good.
And I agree with that. I think that they're getting these kind of... I haven't seen Peter Claffey or Dexter Soul Ansell in anything else. Maybe they've appeared in some other things. I apologize if they have had bigger roles in other things, but this, I feel like, is their really big highlight moment thus far, and they're doing a great job with the chemistry and how they're kind of walking the line of the relationship between these two.
Yeah, I think young Dexter's got quite a bright future ahead of him. And they're both great. I think their dynamic is great, which is so relieving to see, because I think if there was any kind of stiffness between the two of them, that this show like just doesn't work. But they're very funny together, and Dexter is hilarious. He's like got such great delivery for being a kid that's like 10.
Yeah,
like I mean, he's so young. There's a couple exchanges that they have in this episode that I think are just hysterical. The whole thing with the song about Alice is great. When they're mimicking each other, like in the rows in the stadium, when they're it's fucking awesome. Yeah, it's just really, really good chemistry between the two of them.
Yeah, Vinny, what was your thoughts on the reveal that we wind up seeing that Egg is a Targaryen, even though we kind of previewed it in the first episode?
Yeah, so I loved it. I like Sean said, I really love the score in that scene specifically. I love when they do that, like it's just very loud and extreme almost. I can't use I could go on and on about what the correct adjective would it be. Anywho, I do have criticism though for that one scene, is that as the scene works for me, however, I was watching the after of the director talking about that scene, and her intent is completely the opposite of what I got.
Okay.
She was saying how she wanted that scene in that moment to be actually a lot, like, very emotional, and how now Dunk is like, oh, can I trust him? Can I trust the Targaryen? And I get that, but I also like this. She specifically said, I didn't want it to be focused more on the reveal, but rather the emotion that Dunk is feeling. I did not get that. I didn't not get that at all.
Yeah, not
Either.
really.
Yeah.
So,
So
sorry, director.
yeah, like it works still though. I the scene works, but the music choice is complete opposite to the vision. But I do really like that reveal. I love that scene. I love how intense it is. I'm like a sucker for just the traditional hero type of archetype.
Mm-hmm.
He sees a girl that he loves being hurt, and he fucking steps in. I also love this episode specifically for a metaphor, but I think that's kind of overstepping the question you asked, so I'll save that.
No, you can hit us with it. I want
Okay.
you to hit us with it right now. Now that
Okay.
you prefaced it, Vinny,
Yeah,
I want to
so-
hear it.
That scene ties together with Egg, how they're overhearing the song about the crippled girl and how she could please men in a right. There was a whole song written about her because
A
of
wonderful song.
how well a wonderful song of how well she could please men with her physical, talents, and she was a cripple. Like God gave her that physical abilities, and she made the best out of them.
Mm-hmm.
And Dunk's like, haha, like no. He doesn't think anything of it. But Egg sees that very in a very clean way. He doesn't see it dirty, right? And he specifically mentions how, like, he explains exactly what I just explained. Like, she was given this body, and she made the best out of it despite her circumstances. And he describes it as a song of honor. And Dunk's like, what? Get the fuck out of here. Right? But he says that to Dunk now.
Yeah.
But yeah, so but then that's a metaphor for Dunk. That Dunk he's not the brightest, but God gave him an extreme physical strength, an extreme physical, like he's massive, he's taller than every single other person. He's stronger than every other person we've met so far. God gave him that. And that last scene is like him using that physical ability that God gave him and using the best, using it to help others.
Mm-hmm.
And that is honor. That is honor. That's a story of honor. And so I think it's a metaphor.
It also really tied into, for me, with that quote that they had in the last episode where it was like, every man's a fool and every man's a knight.
Yes.
Of like, yeah, he's a big dumb oaf, but he has so much heart and he goes in there to do the right thing, even though it's foolish to do that. Like to hit a prince is you're gonna get murdered.
Yeah.
It was very good.
Yeah, it's nice to see a character in Thrones that's an oaf that you could root for.
Yeah, right.
You know, because
Hodor
obviously too.
Hodor.
But Hodor really doesn't have much. I mean, again, it's not like Dunk has a crazy amount of depth to him either. But again,
you didn't love Hodor's like soliloquies throughout the show. Okay.
Wasn't for me. For me. But you see it also in another moment in this episode as well, when I'm forgetting the character's name, but the guy who is constantly spitting.
Oh, that stupid idiot.
Yeah.
I don't remember his name.
He grabs Dunk and he's kind of like, like if you wind up taking down this guy in this joust, then like a lot of people won't be betting on you.
Right.
But there's some people in the village that you can see some wealth out of this, and we can see some wealth out of this. And he literally says to him, he's like, I'm not going to do something that doesn't feel honorable to me.
He's not going to cheat his way to honor either, which is really cool.
Yeah. So I'm curious for you, again, the writer in the room, Sean, what were some of through the 3 episodes that we're at now, what are some of the things that from a story structure point of view, you're really happy that they're doing, and maybe something that you wish that they could be doing a little bit better?
I think that I'm really admiring their like patience. I think if a lesser writer was presented with this story and was just told like, all right, make a banger pilot, they would have speed ran to this scene at the end of episode 3 in that first episode. I think having to wait 3 weeks for like the average like meathead viewer to be like, oh, it's about a Targaryen, now I care, was like kind of actually a pretty ballsy decision, because otherwise it's just like, all right, it's just like these 2 guys hanging out in a festival that doesn't matter and like whatever. But it has great character work, so obviously like I think we would have been endeared to it either way. But I admire that restraint. The other thing is I think I guess it's like if I had to nitpick a negative, I'm really enjoying this so far. I don't really have too many overbearing problems, but I think that George R.R. Martin doesn't write romance all that well, and I think the like semi cutesy like, oh, I have a crush on the girl is like the only part of this that feels cliche in like a stupid way and not in a charming way for me. It's like, all right, dude, like she doesn't really have much character. She has one of the best lines in the show so far, but that's like it. Like I don't really know anything about her. I'm hoping they have like some kind of budding relationship where they actually like get to know each other. Because right now it's like the big strong buffoon going after the pretty girl. I've just seen it like a million times, and I feel like Thrones is known for subverting fantasy like tropes like that, and this is just a fantasy trope so far. Like there's not really anything super interesting about it for me.
I would agree with that. I think that hopefully they're able to flesh that out a little bit more within the next 3 episodes that we get. But I do
Is
think
there only 6 in the season?
I believe there's only 6.
Oh shit.
I'll double check, but I'm pretty positive that there's only 6.
Oh,
yeah,
wow.
There's only 6.
Okay, so we're halfway through the
We're
season.
halfway through, which is, I was just going to add on to what you were talking about the Targaryen reveal. I do agree with you, but I also think that it works really well for a mid-season thing.
It does
get you to this point where you're like, oh shit, okay, now for the people who have no idea, or they maybe didn't watch our first episode and they didn't realize that Egg was a Targaryen. They didn't pick up on those little things that they're laying out for you.
Mhm.
It is a cool reveal, and it gives you again that flip of the power dynamic of being like the tiniest person in the room literally is the one that's able to make kind of control all of the power that's happening within this moment, you know,
which is really good. And I'm just so interested like how much this story and this show delve into the Targaryens as characters. Like obviously Egg's going to be hyper important. He's like the second lead of the show. But all of these other characters that I know from the history books sound so interesting. And like I don't know how much are we going to see of Aerion and Maekar and Daeron the Good and all these other Targaryens that have like very cool lore to them. But are they going to be kind of side characters here, or are we going to see Maester Aemond from Game of Thrones as a young lad? Are we going to see Bloodraven, who's Egg's uncle, I believe? Who winds up as the Tree Man in Thrones. Like, I would love to see these guys pop out.
Well, we are getting a second season. That's confirmed.
Yeah, I don't know this story yet. I would imagine that I'm going to finish this first season, and then I'll read the first novella, and then I'll probably get carried away and read the rest of the novellas, and then I'll just know what happens in season 2 and 3. That's typically how this goes. This is what I did with House of the Dragon too. So yeah, I mean, I'm looking forward to it. I'm really enjoying the ride. And this is, since Game of Thrones, the first Thrones show I've watched where I was like, I don't know what's going to happen. How exciting. It's very cool.
Yeah, definitely. The only other two things that stood out to me, different sides of the spectrum, but comedically, I love the song that Egg sings.
Great song.
Which has some really great comedic moments in that by kind of censoring himself. And I know you said you don't usually typically watch the after stuff, right? Like when they show you.
I watched the one for episode 1, which I thought was really sweet and charming, of just the two of them talking about like how they became friends immediately. But no, I didn't watch the next two.
Well, this one, Vinny, correct me if I'm wrong. I saw the clip on Twitter. I didn't watch it, but it was about how Lionel was talking about how he's like, he goes, I don't like really cursing around young kids, and I kind of had to get used to it.
Yeah.
And then it cuts to Dexter saw Ansell, and he's like, I don't really like cursing. He's like, I like showing up on set and just doing my work.
Yeah.
And it's just like so great to see that that's mirrored in the episode by him kind of censoring himself within the song.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought that was a great standout scene. And we also get, I mean, besides Tanzyl's finger getting kind of snapped by Aerion, we also get the biggest moment of brutality in the show thus far, where we're seeing in the joust, the horse getting stabbed through the neck.
Yeah.
Which was brutal.
Yeah, it's some nasty violence. That's some Thrones violence that they're bringing in, which is cool. And I think that it's another strength of the show that's working with the tone. That we're implying and we're showing some like pretty messed up Thrones level shit, like a horse getting, stabbed through the throat. But then we're not seeing the horse actually like get executed. It's like they're cutting away, I feel like, at just the right time where it's enough to kind of establish the stakes and like the realness of the situation for a second without it becoming like extra dire. And I think that's great because Egg is a perfect excuse for that, of Dunk trying to basically shield Egg from like the horrors of the world. And I wonder if this story progresses like into the next seasons, if that's going to become more of a relevant thing, that we're seeing more violence as Egg's maturing, and if the tone is going to shift to like maybe a little more serious now that he's like becoming a young man. So it's really interesting. I'm digging it.
Yeah. Vinny, is there anything else that we didn't touch on that?
Honestly, no. You guys put it perfectly, and I said what I had to say. Honestly, these are short episodes. I think the biggest thing for me, which you guys touched on briefly, we're halfway through the season. It's a little concerning for me, because it's like these are very quick episodes. We're only getting 6 episodes. It's like don't get me wrong, quality over quantity, but at the same time, is that a little too less,
So I'll tell you what, there was something that caught my eye, and again, I can't spoil the show because I don't know what happens in the show. But there are some characters that are mentioned and that are like in the show that I know that certain events happen to them at some point. And I don't know when it happens or if Dunk and Egg are involved. It could be completely irrelevant. But there is basically a big combat event that occurs at one point with some of these characters, where there's like a pretty substantial thing that happens. And I feel like this episode might be setting that up. And if it is, it's going to be peak. It's going to be so sick. I don't know if that's actually what's happening.
It's going to be so interesting, though, if what you're referring to gets like a 30-minute runtime.
Yeah, but it's about... I think that's about right.
Okay.
Yeah, I could see that happening. Whatever. I'll keep my mouth shut because if it is this, I'll wait until next episode to bring it up because then we'll know for sure.
Okay.
So,
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Well, we're all digging the show so far. Really excited to kind of see where they're going on it. Each episode on IMDb, the scores keep going up. This one, I mean, again, it's recent. It's got the least amount of reviews so far, but it's at a 9.2. So a lot of people are digging the show as well. Hopefully, if you're Thrones fans, you could hop on board because it's not a major commitment. It's only 6 episodes. We're halfway through, and they're 30-minute episodes basically. So hopefully you guys are watching it. Let us know in the comments what are your thoughts on the show so far. Give this video a like if you guys can and subscribe to us. Here at the Culture Wave Media Network, we'll be back the next 3 weeks covering it through its completion. It wraps up on February 22nd. So we're in February already. So it's coming quick. And the other thing I was just going to bounce off you or just say to what you said, Vinny, is I know that they renewed it for a second season pretty quick. And I don't know if that was intentional that they filmed 2 seasons back to back, but I'm curious if they wind up doing 2 seasons in 1 year.
Oh, how great would that be?
I wonder if they do this, give us 6 now because it's ahead of the Emmy window.
Yep.
Post Emmy window is June. And then we get another season of this maybe in the winter. I think that would be great because it's not a crazy commitment.
I think you're living in fantasy land.
I know. But
that would be so great.
I do think that we're not going to have to wait more than a year. I think this is coming out beginning of next year at the latest because it's fairly quick.
I also feel like that has to happen because I don't know like the timeline of the books, but I feel like Egg can't be like a man.
Exactly.
You know, like we got to keep this little lad a little lad.
Yeah.
So hopefully they do that.
Definitely. But like I said, let us know your thoughts on everything. You can follow us on social media. All that stuff is below me in the video, and it's also in our YouTube description. So just signing off. I'm Darian Scalamoni.
I've been Sean Villa.
And I've been Vinny Albano.
We'll see you guys next time.
This is The Culture.